or whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever his schedule is like, we don't know yet.
He's here in spirit.
In spirit, sure.
No, wait, I'm here in spirit. Because I am a spirit.
Okay. None of that two-spirit crap. Okay, that's fine. Anyway. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast 876. Trope Talk. Color-coded team with theme, all in caps. It's red. She's talking about God knows how many topics at once, about ideas she half-baked and hasn't described in detail in her brain yet, but she's running with it, and we got to run with her. And man, this is going to hurt. It always hurts. But she's our new Maggie May Fish. She's our bite-sized, consumable...
I think she's our discount Maggie May Fish. She always was.
Yeah, well, you know, she never stopped doing.
She cannot get up there, and I bet her makeup is not halfway as creative.
That would be the next step, I think. If she wanted to be the next Maggie May, she'd have to put herself on camera while doing cosmetology.
Cosmetology, is that a word?
Yeah, doing fashion, whatever girls do on camera. I don't really know. She would have to do something like that, right? That would be the next Maggie May. Unless she wanted to like dance and act like a cat, that'd be cool. I mean, she could do that. Yeah.
The first laugh of the day.
Oh, there's so much more to come. My God, we're gonna be hurting ourselves and then laughing in pain, and then cathartically laughing. Oh, it's gonna be great.
You know, in the theme, in the end. Also, I like to say the word team with an A.
Yeah.
She's basically already done this topic in the other team video thing that she did with the big guy and the lean guy and the small guy. And this is just the same because the colors are, strangely enough, also associated with these attributes.
And I'm sure we're gonna go through like the colors represent the elements, like I don't know, Captain Planet or D&D stuff. So like the guy with the blue headband is ice or water, or I don't know, the Power Ranger with this is that. You know, it's gonna be very basic, straightforward crap.
And the Black Ranger is black.
I guess. I don't know.
That's the coding for black. It's that the guy is black.
Oh, it's black. No, it's black coded. It's not black. It's because Tommy's also a black. Is Tommy a Black Ranger? He was green and white, and maybe he became black. I can't remember.
No, he was some Caucasian, Mexican, I don't know, mixed thing. I think a Caucasian Latino thing.
Then you're gonna go into Avatar because of course she loves Avatar, so she's gonna talk about that. I bet.
That's blue. That's blue people.
Blue people? Okay, I don't know. One of those colors.
Oh, you meant the other Avatar.
Yeah, the one with the cartoons. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
It's just going to be surface level gobbledygook, and we're going to sit there going, no, that's not what a theme is, or maybe she won't even define her terms. That's a possibility. Yeah.
Theme.
So many ways. It's like, hey, Wisp, you're interesting. It's like, what do you mean? It's like, well, you know.
I'm blue.
There's stuff. You've got stuff that I like. It's like, what do you mean by that?
Dabba-dee-dabba-die.
Oh my God. Anyway, this came out. Let me check the date. This came out June. It came out this month, a few weeks ago. Has almost 320,000 views, and it's extremely high upvotes. So probably 99%. People love her. People love listening to Red ramble on about incoherent things that associate with their childhood or their current watching standards of cartoons or what have you. So
if only I had no standards, I'd be a YouTube personality.
If only your brain was more feminine than your body let on, and you thought like this, that would be Red. Hey. No, I'm just saying you'd have to develop more female characteristics.
Even more.
and then look in the mirror and say, this is fine. Like, everything's fine. This is totally normal. No.
It never is. It's
like that picture with the girl, or no, the meme where everything's on fire and it's a woman and she's sipping her tea. It's like, this is good. This is totally fine. Anyway, we're not going to...
Or like the Dorian Gray picture.
Oh, God, no, don't do that. That'd be scary. Anyway, we've been rambling on. Let's let Red bury herself in her own words, and we can just pause and reflect. Okay.
You mean digest?
There's no time to digest. We won't have time.
With constipation.
It will be that more than digestion. Yes, I think. With her words and her jumping around. Yeah, no way. Anyway, here we go.
Did you know I make a comic is getting turned into a physical book?
Oh my.
If you don't, it's probably because I never talk about it. I have been advised to talk about it. So, if you're interested in...
That doesn't look very good art. I'm sorry. It just doesn't... It's colored. You got something going for you. That's good, but the art itself...
High fantasy.
Yeah.
High fantasy.
Doesn't... It's...
Generic, medium to low level webcomic.
Yeah, I'm gonna bash it, but it doesn't look too impressive, so...
Yeah.
But
it has shading.
Yeah, no, it's got color. Like, that's a step up. Like, most starting off artists don't do color because it's expensive, but if you're doing a webcomic, why not?
Somehow, kind of the entire gimmick of my...
Yeah, that's all black. Look, what is this?
There was color. I saw color. I saw Captain Planet.
So it's like an anime manga-ish thing with color. Okay.
There is a pre-order link in the description chapters, but also, if you are impatient and...
Did you speed this up? Is this normal speed?
Normal speed.
Because with that speed of scrolling, Red, you should have given a seizure warning.
Oh,
of all the trigger warnings, that's the one that's relevant.
Okay, all right. Her color comic is giving you a seizure. Okay.
Well, I am actually migraine prone from visual garbage.
I see. Okay, fair enough.
If you are impatient and want to read the whole thing right now, it is all available on the website comicaurora.com. And if that sounds kind of cool, or if you just want to see me put my money where my mouth is where it comes to writing, feel free to check it out. Have fun. Please don't break my website this time. Okay, bye.
Modern discourse and reinterpretation around superheroes often likes to talk about how superheroes are modern-day gods.
Some people do. I haven't heard that too often, but you can akin the modern day superheroes to the myths of yesteryear, like gods, sure. Why not? Some actually do involve the gods or inspired by the gods. That happens quite often, so sure.
I thought the thing, I think over a decade ago, and I found it loosely fitting at the time.
Yeah, it's not a stretch.
With the tales of grand conflicts taking the role that used to be filled with myths and legends. And as something of a myth and legend aficionado, I think this is wrong. Gods aren't just...
Okay, that's a strong stance to take, but there's obvious similarities.
The myth to gallivant around and kick ass. They're also sets of real applicable social rules that shape how you should operate in your given society as defined by...
Yeah, but those are not mutually exclusive. You could have both. That's totally fine.
Yes, and the superhero stories are kind of the same thing because you have, especially since Red is strong, I think mostly into the Greek stuff.
Right.
Some loose Sumerian, Egyptian, but mostly she's doing Greek.
Yeah. If you're blaming the gods for natural occurrences, like they get angry, it's like, okay, you should not anger the gods, earthquakes, disasters, etc. Those are moral stories. That happens a lot. So
no, but I think what she's on about is and that's a valid point, is that the stories of the gods interacting is what shows you what is good and bad conduct, because the gods also will sometimes fall flat on their noses, especially the Greek ones, because they are they're more on the vice side of things, on the excess side of things.
Yeah.
As because the Greeks have thought these things through on a very rational basis and thought, well, if a god represents a certain attribute and therefore is 100% of that attribute, or let's say 99%, and therefore will, through that representation, act most in that thing, and when something acts most in that thing, it will crash with another thing, and that leads to trouble, and that's why you don't want to deal with gods, because anything in excess is crap.
And we use this polytheistic view, or they have used polytheistic views to explain the complexity of nature and why things are a certain way as opposed to a theistic view.
Yeah.
And that's just part of ancient history. I think that's pretty normal. So,
but even with not loser pantheons, but not these extreme acting pantheons, like the Norse pantheon, for example, you still have these stories of good and bad conduct.
Yeah, the gods.
The Finnish one does this as well, because it's all the product of what you judge the conduct by what happens in the story, what's the result of the action.
Yeah, and you can associate that easily with the humanity of the gods being imperfect. So modern day superheroes are imperfect. We have a lot of stories like that from especially the Marvel universe. So to associate gods of yesteryear with Marvels, especially like with Thor, that's not a stretch. It's not that big.
Well, that Thor is technically just a god. But...
Literally, yeah. So I don't know why she doesn't agree with this concept, but okay, whatever.
But yeah, in most mythologies, the gods are really just like people acting. And everything they do is basically in metaphor. A few weeks ago, I read the Baal cycle. And that is not at all like the child sacrifice god that the Canaanites made that thing into. The original Baal was just your average rain god, who has tons of parallels to Thor later on. And he's basically just a juvenile who's a bit headstrong and wants to not live in the house of his father, and so he rather sleeps under the open sky. And the entire story of the Baal cycle is very, very down to earth about a family where everybody has issues. Basically, psychologically borked family, not more. And you can interpret some of these parts as, that actually stands for the seasons changing from the harvest season to winter, where Baal is wrestling with Mot, the god of death. But you have the same reflected in Thor, where he wrestles the old woman that he doesn't know is actually just old age, which is the same.
Yeah, we have
effectively the same thing in a different context.
We have plenty of cultures doing the cycles of nature, like Persephone and Demeter, explaining the harvest, etc. So
yeah, but the actual essence of that one is you can derive the in the Baal cycle, you can derive the seasons from that if you want, but the actual moral of that bit is in both pantheons. You can't cheat death. Death is final, and death is in that, as well as in the Greek one, Hades, is usually the most reasonable and down-to-earth person, because the same goes for Hel in the Norse pantheon, because, well, death is final. You don't mess around with death. Death doesn't give a shit about your antics. You can try to haggle, you can try to wrestle, but in the end, death is just,
Yeah, it's part of the symbolism of teaching kids this lesson of life and death cycles, or feminine cycles, or motherhood cycles, the harvest. So there's plenty of reasons why we have these stories, religious or otherwise. They don't have to be associated with particular mysticism or anything like that, but they can be stories by themselves to instruct and keep kids in check. So I don't see how that's any different than the stories we tell today with modern heroes, superheroes, or otherwise. They're very similar, whether they're gods, demigods, or superheroes, or mutants, or whatever. It's the same. You're doing the same thing. And we can even go, 60 years, talk about the heroes of old westerns or samurais. You're doing the same stuff, different setting, different time period, teaching the same lessons, just in a different flavor. So I don't know why she made that. I don't agree. It's like, okay, I mean, fine, but you're missing the point of this rich history. But fine, it doesn't bother me. Whatever, it's great.
To look at a god and see only them culturally significant. And I love superheroes, but they're nowhere near foundational enough to be gods. They're knights. Arthuriana has had way more cultural impact than I think a lot.
That's the set. Oh God, Red. If you've read so much and you didn't pick up on it, it's the same thing. The Arthurian legend is the king and his dirty dozen of buddies. Every single one of these pantheons is the king and his dirty dozen of buddies. Every time.
It's a fantasy.
And every time you have your Judas in it, and that's the Jesus story is not the first one of that, and it's not the last one of that. It's an echo within echoes, and so is the Arthurian legend.
All she's doing is just describing another fantasy story of myth, whether it's demigods or a pantheon or a group of dudes or a super team or a family. It's the same. This is weird. I don't know why she's making this. I don't get it. Like, what's the difference? Feudalism? Like, okay, yeah, kings and knights, sure. What's the difference?
A lot of people
mean something
realize,
else.
and a lot of that has been by shaping the tropes of what it looks like when a small elite team of badasses dedicate themselves to the protection of those who cannot protect themselves.
Oh, you mean like the Norse gods, which are doing exactly that? So the Norse gods are just knights now. Red, you should know better.
Romantic chivalric ideal has very little to do with real historical knights who spent most of their time getting shuffled off on crusades or other excuses to bully their neighbors so they would have other people to kill instead of tearing up their home turf. But the legend of the Round Table has...
What?
We'll just let that slide. I don't care. This is so silly.
That joke was more slanderous than helpful.
Yeah. Anyway, let's just insult the entire order of lords and ladies serving their king. Okay, sure.
The whole point of a knight was virtue, you harlot.
Or the Crusades. Let's just throw that out. Just forget we heard that, okay?
Produce this idea that some people, whether through intensive training or inborn talent or a blend of both, can become motivated.
What is with this music? Is this that weird
tension? We're doing hero stuff.
The generic the generic tension music, whatever it's called.
Look, I'm at least it's not the usual weird forest thingy. Yeah, exactly. I refuse to remember the title. About knights. The word knight comes from the Germanic knecht, which we also use as knecht. Which by the way, retranslates back into English as knave. So the knight is actually the knave, because he is a servant. And the other one, that then comes back in German, where we also use the word Knabe, from knave, Nave, Knabe, because the V and the B were the same letter at some point. Which is an old word for boy. And the German word Mädchen, for girl, is the diminutive form of Magd, which is the female servant. By the way, Christ's wife, Maria Magdalena, was the Magd of Lena, so the servant of Lena. That's what the name means. Red, you're talking crap because you didn't even look up what words mean. Knights only went rogue when they were without a lord. We have also a word for that. That's the Raubritter, which is the robber knight, basically. Which you could say is akin to the Japanese Ronin.
Yeah, I was about to say that this is not a unheard of thing, and we've had honor roles throughout history in different cultures, not just Europe. So for her to just minimalize the whole role and saying, "Oh, they went on the Crusades and they bullied their neighbors," you're like, "Wait a second. Could you please give an example why you
mean freed the people from slavery and rape by the
marauders,
shaitan worshipping Islamists?"
Oh God, yeah, it's defending all the Christian nations. Yeah, what a horrible thing they did. Anyway,
freeing, not just defending, actually freeing from tyranny.
But they're all united in a common cause and a common loyalty to the ideals of justice. Maybe they even have the help of a wise old wizardly mentor to guide them, and some of them will bring along a young squire at their side to help out while they learn how to be a true hero in their own right. Then they go out into the world and fight strange enemies with confounding powers, sorceresses or creatures or enemy knights serving dark powers, and it wouldn't hurt to rescue a few fair maidens along the way. And this inspiration is no secret. A full half of Batman's epithets have something of the Round Table about them, from the Dark Knight to the Caped Crusader crusader, and basically anyone whose power is power armor or cool sword or shield is gonna end up with the symbolism laid on pretty thick. Not to mention, Aquaman is literally a King Arthur. The interesting thing about knights in comparison to modern superheroes is that with knights, the power curve is a lot more narrow. Everyone is basically operating with the same tools, the same kind of armor, weapons, steeds, etc. Sometimes some.
And that's similarly as true for the superheroes. They may have different power-ups, but the whole point is that they all have power-ups. And you have your stone, paper, scissors game going on, which is similar to sword, lance, bow.
Yeah, this is no different than watching a modern or even a 20-year-old police procedural where all the cops have their own skill set. You have the guy with the shotgun, you have the girl who's good with knives. I don't know, there's all kinds of different skills. It's the same idea. They're all operating under the same team. They have a badge. They have a code of rules to follow. They're defending the city, etc. Some of them are corrupt, some of them aren't, etc. There's all kinds of flavors of the police procedural. So, yeah.
Red beats green beats blue. Yay.
Yeah.
Beats red. Blue beats red, oh no!
Advantage of height. Or just plain raw skill, and some of the knights had fun little quirks that gave them advantages, but there was nothing comparable to the power gap you get in basically every big-name super team these days. With chivalric knights, you can't really get anything that matches the vibe of Thor and Hawkeye being in the same group chat. Modern superhero teams are usually a much more eclectic bunch, with diverse origins, powers, and power scaling, leading to an environment where their uniqueness forms a good chunk of the appeal of the big team-up tales. But that's not the case with every super.
Oh, you mean like the Sons of Boars have a different origin than the giants that came from the armpit of Ymir? And the Divania are from the neighboring pantheon who joined this the Aesir pantheon through exchanging quasi-hostages? And like those are pretty different origin stories, if you ask me.
Yeah, these are. She had a generic statement which you can apply to some ideas, but just thinking about specific examples like the X-Men, like, yeah, they're all different. They all have different origins, but they come together as a class and they form a superhero team. I don't know if that's the same for the JLA. I don't know if it's the same for Guardians of the Galaxy. They all have their own unique stories.
Everybody has an origin story. Sun Wukong has a special origin story. Compared to, oh god, I forgot the name. The girl from the bamboo thingy.
The bamboo thing?
Yeah, the moon, some moon princess. I forgot the name.
Oh, you know, all the Sun Wukong stuff is really, really fantastical. It's hard to.
Yeah, and they all have different origin stories, man. It's not anything new. This stuff, what we do now, is basically in every aspect. Just the current day iteration of what has been done for centuries and millennia.
Yeah, it really is just regurgitations of the same story done again. That's why I still don't understand why she said that at the beginning. I don't believe this is the same.
Okay. But the oldest written story that is still getting updates, listen closely, George R. Martin. The Gilgamesh story is still getting updates. Games of Thrones isn't, and Game of Thrones author is still alive. The Epic of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh is the king of Ur. Oh, Uruk? Oh god, it's so long ago I mixed them up. It's what you get for naming all your cities the same. His best buddy is actively created by the gods out of bullshit. The two then, fight some other people with different backgrounds. Gilgamesh at some point meets some immortal guy who tells him of his past in Atlantis. That's all so bloody different. And that's the oldest story we have. And there's a couple more characters in there. It's great. And here Red tries to paint this as something special that we do now. What have you read, Red?
It's kind of odd because a lot of people will say, oh, they were lovers. This is the first queer story. And it's like, okay, yes, they were lovers, but not in this ridiculous, fantastical modern day political view. He was created to stop Gilgamesh from controlling his people. So it's learn your lesson or we will smite you. It's like, okay, here you go.
But they didn't.
Great. Yeah, it's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
See, there's a specific kind of badass marching to the beat of their own drum who then chooses to join up with some kind of crime-fighting book club. Some superheroes start off as a matched set, originating alongside the rest of their team and sharing not just their general power set, but also an overarching gimmick that continues to bind them together. These superheroes almost don't exist in isolation. Their primary role is that they are part of the team, specifically the color-coded team with a theme.
I'm confused. So they're individuals, but sometimes they're not? Why even make that example? Like, just say they are. Give me an actual term or criteria. Don't say some superheroes are X, but some of them aren't. And you're like, then there's no logic.
How would you distinguish the turtles? By the way, the turtles didn't always have the color distinction.
In the beginning,
in the very original, they all looked the same.
They all had red. They all had red bandanas. You're right. Yeah. Mm. There was no color. That was
really gritty stuff.
That was when they were cool. They were like dark, like, ooh, this is edgy and like mysterious. Like, who are these things? And then I think by the second or third year they changed it up for the TV show.
The theme starts off very simply, with a shared superhero origin. It doesn't technically have to happen simultaneously for everyone involved, but it usually does for the sake of convenience.
See, this is what I don't like about her. It can, but it can't. It doesn't have to, but it does. It's like, what the give me just give an example so I can grasp what you're saying, because not every example will follow your deduced theory.
Yeah, give us an example or several examples where it does, like Turtles and Power Rangers, and give us one.
Yeah.
And give us one where it doesn't happen simultaneously.
And why?
That would be Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon doesn't happen simultaneously.
Yeah, but like when you come up with a theory or a general rule, the general rule has to apply. You can't just say it does work and then it doesn't. It's like you're defeating the purpose of saying anything. It's like A implies B, except when it doesn't. It's like, what? Then why would you even make that declaration? It's such insane logic.
There are always exceptions to rules, but that doesn't discount the rules.
Well,
and you should clarify exceptions as just that.
Well,
but then the exceptions to these rules also happen so often that it is really pointless, and that means that the essence of what you're trying to talk about is something else that you fail to uncover.
You cannot make a rule if your second example is, well, it could also happen 49% of the time. It's like, wait a second, then that's not really a rule. It's just a more or less occurrence. And then you're wasting my time because I can just give examples of, well, I just read Marvel X-Men comics the other day, and that defeats the whole purpose of a team because they're all different.
What the way Red phrases these things, and that's what she usually does, is it sounds like 50% of the time it's the rule and 50% of the time it's not the rule.
And that
means it's not a rule.
Exactly.
Because if a rule doesn't happen 50% of the time and 50% not, that's a coin flip.
Yeah, if she wants to have a list of, I don't know, the 10 most popular superhero whatever groups, and you say, okay, from this big list, it's 80%. Like, that's a good percentage. I could go with that. And then we have these two exceptions because the writers are super weird. Like, great. We'll just say they're weird. We don't know why. And we'll forget the rest of history because maybe history is the opposite. We have no idea. But at least we have somewhere to fall back on whatever the hell theory she's coming up with, because you do not do this. You do not invent things on the fly and say, because I watch Sailor Moon, I'm not going to say I watch Sailor Moon. I'm going to say, well, sometimes the rule doesn't apply to certain other stories. And then you just keep going with your that thought. It wastes my time. It confuses the hell out of me because now I'm thinking about, well, what about Sailor Moon? What about X-Men? What about Justice League? And it's all just gobbledygook for us to be confused. So this is what she's going to do the rest of... She's been doing this for years, and I don't know why. Any teacher would say this is wrong. Your logic is wrong. Give examples. Don't just say things.
So some time for these characters to realize they've been part of the same mass empowering event and find one another. And apart from being shared between characters, the origin story can be basically anything. A team of Power Rangers.
Okay, wait. The origin story, if your definition of a thing is it can be anything, then don't even make that statement. It's like, Smudboy, how do I make this story better? You could write anything. It'll be fine. You can do anything. Your character background can be anything. It'll be fine. I don't know. This is not advice. Just write anything. It's fine. Your background story for your power team can be anything. It's great. Okay.
Why are you making videos, Red?
Write anything.
Why are you making
these
videos?
Wait,
because nothing matters.
It's
just, do what you want.
The background
anarchy.
It can be based off a central idea or not. Some of them aren't, and it could be anything. Like, oh, okay.
That's like these live servers, terms of service thingies where they write, we can terminate everything your contract with this, and therefore you lose anything that you purchased here for any reason or no reason at any point in time when we want.
Yeah,
that's the same logic.
It's painful, but that's red. Okay.
Are bestowed their transformation trinkets by a mentor figure who deems them worthy. The Ninja Turtles get doused with mutation goo and grow up to be Ninja Turtles. The Sailor...
Oh my god, she has examples. Oh my god. Okay.
Yay.
We're getting somewhere.
Scouts get reincarnated as mild-mannered schoolgirls until their magical animal sidekick can awaken their latent powers. Superhero origins...
But not at the same time.
Can be basically anything, and so can communal superhero origins as long as they're shared.
Communal... Communal?
I
don't know.
Superheroes?
Is that like the ooze with the turtles? They all get hit with the ooze?
Where does Demon Slayer rank in this? Because that's also a color-coded team. And they have superpowers.
Maybe like...
There's also the super color-coded super team of the super bestest Demon Slayers in Demon Slayer.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking...
Oh god, I hated that when that was introduced. But at least some of them have good characters.
I was thinking fun. The Fantastic Four might have had a communal event.
But they're all blue.
Oh, sorry. They're out for their uniforms, yeah. I was thinking the gamma... Was it gamma rays? It was something that hit them. And they all transformed into whatever. So that was a communal event?
No, it's cosmic nonsense. Gamma rays was Hulk.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. Whatever.
Which is magic rays.
This lays the groundwork for the team with the theme by bestowing upon them a communal base.
The team with the theme? The theme of what?
The team with the theme.
I thought it was the team with the colors.
The colors is the theme.
A color theme? Just say color. What do you mean the color theme? The team with the same color. The rainbow team. Like, which color? Pick one. I have no idea.
To be operating with. This is all team with a theme. Because a shared origin story or basic premise behind their superpowers is important, but it doesn't always produce a team with a theme.
What then?
If she doesn't mention the Ginyu Force, I'm gonna be sad.
Why say it? It can be, but it also can't. Like, really?
What's the color coding here?
the X-Men.
Green, blue, yellow, green, and green?
I don't know. So are they or aren't they a team, Red? Tell us.
Oh no, the other guy's black. Okay.
Are united in their superhero origin to the point where even mutants that are immediate family can have completely different powers from one another. Thus, even though the X-Men have a much more cohesive narrative than a lot of superhero teams, they still feel a lot more like your Avengers and Justice Leagues when it comes to the grouping of the power sets. It's objectively bonkers that technically...
no, it's not objective.
This is so badly animated.
It is not objectively bonkers, Red. That's you being weird and saying words that you don't understand.
Read the edda. It's bonkers. It has better action scenes than the MCU. I'm not kidding. They're really well written.
We're at 5 minutes.
But this here is just nah.
Where's
the color coding? Where's the color coding, Red?
Storm has white hair and she has white outfits.
But she's black.
She also has black outfits.
Speaking is the same kind of superpower as Jubilee.
Storm does not have the same kind of power as Jubilee.
Wow. The god of thunder does not have the same power set as the god of let me flip a few pages. The guy with the vision, the wisdom god, the god of hell, the other guy, the other Loki from Utgard.
Jubilee does pyrotechnics, I believe, of some kind, and she can grow and she can become like a nuclear blast or whatever, but Storm controls the weather. Very different powers. Anyway.
They don't have much in the way of power coordination. Some of them have...
What does that mean? Why is that important? Does the Flash have the same power coordination as Wonder Woman?
You know what the power of Ishtar was?
Aside from love?
No. That was her domain. Love and war.
Huh.
They had figured out that these two are the same thing. No. Her power was pestering her father until he gives her what she wants.
Nice. That's a very common power for a goddess. Okay. Oh boy, here we go. Thread knot for the 5. Thank you, sir. Aang wears yellow because air. Okay.
What?
Katara and Sokka wear blue because water. Toph wears green because earth. Zuko wears red because fire. Yip. Is that it?
But yellow is also earth.
Isn't aren't they from different nations as well? Don't the nations have their own uniforms?
Yeah.
The monks have their own uniforms.
But the monks are more orange because Buddhism.
Right, exactly. Okay, whatever.
But orange is also not the air color.
Some of them have physical mutations with varying. Significant number of them are blue for some reason. They share an in-universe justification, but almost none of these powers feel like variations on...
Red! You literally named red and the other guy is called blue. And you talk about the color-coded team stuff. Shouldn't you start here, especially because you're a woman and you should know... This is the tropey thing that women know. That's the women trope. That you know color language. Shouldn't you explain us the general meanings of colors?
Well, that's cosmetology. I don't think she has any makeup skills whatsoever. So
what? You mean cosmetology?
Cosmetology, yeah. What did I say?
No, not Cosmo. That's the
I said Cosmo.
You said Cosmo.
Cosmo. All right.
I'm sure Zodiac stuff is also related.
Please, no, none of that. None of that. Cosmetic.
Episcus can really not wear this mascara.
Well, yeah, we don't have to go into that. But what she's saying here is pretty. I don't know what she's getting at here. That powers are variations of a central theme. The central theme of what? The color theme, the color wheel. That red is fire. Like the colors represent the elements. Like what are we talking about now? The powers of the mutants. I don't get it.
Black is swamp.
You know how we had a mix? We did understand the colors in Star Trek, how gold was command, and then we got to TNG, then red was command, and then gold was engineering, and then blue was science, but it was also medical.
Didn't Kirk also wear green at some point?
He had a sash. Yes. It was a green.
Which didn't look much like a uniform. It just looked more fancy.
Yeah, and then we had a jacket for... Yeah, we didn't know what the colors meant anymore. It was just all over the place. Yeah. So maybe the design team just went, yeah, let's just put Kirk in green. That'd be nice. Anyway.
On any sort of central theme. So it's not enough for the origin to be shared. The powers also have to feel similar to each other.
But you just showed us... and explained that the X-Men all have different colors and powers.
But similar. Different but similar.
What the fuck? What is she talking What is
she does the thing that deranged leftists always do by just saying absolutely contradictory things and hope that you don't notice. And by saying absolutely contradictory things, they say everything and open up every possibility of interpretation. And if you only what is this, cursory listening?
Oh god.
If you're just superficially listening to it in the background, the only things you pick up or that's what they think, the only things you pick up then are the things that you agree with. That makes sense. Yeah. Because if you don't actively listen, you don't hear how everything contradicts and this vapid, superficial crap. But if you have autists listening...
What the... Anyway.
Theme comes in. Everyone
what theme?
Speaking are very similar to one another.
No, they're not.
Now, there's obviously a lot of room for flexibility here when it comes to defining what constitutes...
Very, very similar. Let's talk about the X-Men again. Eye lasers, a strong furry,
a weather witch
that makes things old,
a pyrotechnic girl, a dude with indestructible bones that has healing powers.
Very similar.
Iceman. Yeah, let's just
mind reading.
Let's rewind this. Let's hear this sentence one more time.
The theme comes in. Everyone on the team has to have powers or abilities that, structurally speaking, are very similar to one another.
So, what structurally speaking powers do the X-Men have? Because they're all different. Virtually every single one.
The very point is that they are not even remotely close to one another.
Like
the demon guy who does shadow step, the guy with claw hand bones.
Yeah, like you could say
this is not even remotely the same.
Some of them can fly. Some of them have regeneration. Some of them have some degree of strength or above human strength. So they all have certain commonalities, but individually, no, their powers are very different.
And in DC, the Marsman, I find them just so jarringly unfitting that he can just he's a morph who can he's a changeling, and he also can do other things. That's just so many things rolled into one, and I find him completely sticking out way too much over everybody else for some reason. Even though there are all these really strong characters there, like his set of powers is just all over the place.
We're talking about Elastic Man?
No. The oh god, I don't remember the name because I'm not that deep into this stuff. No, the alien from Mars.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Marsman.
the Martian Manhunter. Okay.
Martian Manhunter. Yes, Marsman.
Yeah, he's telepathic. He could shift through things. He could change his appearance. He could fly. He's super strong. He's scared of fire. Like, yeah, he's got so many abilities. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like somebody just went and I would like have to this and that over there.
Yeah.
Like, just random roll your character sheet. I still have some points left. Let's throw in some other thing.
When it comes to defining what constitutes a similar power set, but a lot of this is a strictly vibes-based assessment. Consider.
Wait.
What?
A lot of this, according to her, is a strictly vibes-based assessment. Does anyone have any idea what that means?
She wrote this from her gut. That means she wrote the script without rationality, without rhyme or reason, only through emotional feeling. Which is a classically feminine thing to do, Red. You are a woman. You are not non-binary. You are a woman because you do the most womanly stuff between your ears.
I was thinking she was going for a vape and she got the wrong cartridge in her vape and she's like inhaling like methadone or something that really puts you
no.
Like she's just high. She's gone.
You need recipes to get onto a methadone program. I don't think she's been through that hard of a life. That's like when you get methadone when you were hooked on opiates.
Yeah, exactly. So
I don't think that's
when I hear vibes.
I know people like that. That's mean.
I'm not trying to be mean. I'm just saying when you say I'm doing this on my emotions, it's like then you're a moron. Like you are actually stupid. Like you're saying I'm not going to think critically. I'm not going to think objectively. I'm not using my brain. I'm going to go. I like color. You're just being absolutely bonkersly stupid. You're dumb.
Yeah.
And now we're following along and trying
to... Red, you just admitted that there is no logos here. You say words, which is logos is the word, but there's no logic with your logos. That's the... No, please, why?
Here's the Copper Owl giving me a very fancy number, 2.22. At least the Copper Owl is consistent. I like seeing the number 2 3 times. Compared to listening to Red, at least something is repeating, and my brain is like, numbers.
Better than ones and zeros.
Once again, I catch the stream on a Red video. I am so sorry. I was not expecting Red on a Friday. I think we did her a few weeks ago, and that was bad. That was a bad idea.
This is the exact thing that why men don't like to listen to certain women, because they say many words but they say nothing.
This is what happens when you go on a date and you think, oh, this person is smart, I could share my intelligence with them and they will be impressed because we are talking on the same line. No, women do not like it when you use logic and reason and evidence and you're thinking clearly. They will think you're talking down to them. They will think that you're superior, and therefore you're being... No, it's like, no, we're just talking on the same... When you talk to a man about the same topic, it's like, oh, I didn't know that.
Smart, it is so bad that sometimes when you have intelligent, substantial topics that you talk about, and the wife of the guy you talk with is in the room, even though she's not involved in the topic, she will have a mental breakdown because you talk about intelligence, and she feels inferior because you dare talk about something that she deep down knows she is lacking because she's envious of it or something.
It could be anything. Yeah, it could be, last year they decided to become vegan, and you're like, oh, that's interesting. How do you talk? Because if you know nutrition, you're going to have a lot to say.
That was not an allegation. That was an anecdote that happened.
These are all experiences I've had as well. I don't speak out in theory.
It's my lived experience.
Yeah, exactly. If you want to start talking about blood serum level of cholesterol, and you explain how dietary cholesterol does not impact that, they're going to have a conniption because they were told otherwise, and their teacher said this, and you're just like, no, they're wrong. No.
Yeah,
it's not. Just stop talking. Just don't even bother. You're not going to.
So what Red is actually doing here is mimicry. She's imitating intelligent conversation.
I'm betting she never had, or maybe she might have heard and only heard like excerpts and thought that was the logos she got from it. I don't know. But
if only she listened to herself.
Never ever come to any conclusion, or as an aside, tell your person you're talking to, this is strictly a vibes-based assessment.
Each of them uses a different weapon, but they all use weapons and are starting from the basic premise of ninja training. So even if they have disparate movesets, because fighting with a staff is going to look very different from fighting with nunchucks, in the grand scheme, these still feel like very similar skill sets. Every Power Ranger operates in the same general space of improbably acrobatic fight choreography with a uniquely toyetic weapon and Zord to keep them distinct, but not too distinct. Each pilot of Voltron forms a different part of the giant robot and might have a different sidearm, but they're all starting from the premise of pilots a big robot lion. And there is some room for flexibility here. A lot of magical girl...
That was the same as Power Rangers. Yeah. Red, what was that about the X-Men again and their similar powers?
And, okay, when you say there's flexibility, do you mean breaking the rules? Or do you mean, hey, they could have a sword, they could have a spear? It's like, yes, that's true, but fighting with a sword and a spear are extremely different. So, this is... What's the point exactly? What are we getting at? That they're part of a team, but they're all using melee weapons? It's like, yes. I'm quite sure there's plenty of history on medieval swords and fighting that we did with wartime and why. So, I don't... Anyway. Yes, they are similar yet different. They're using melee weapons. Okay, fine. I'm not complaining. I'm losing my mind because we previously were told that colors and this and that don't mean anything. from the X-Men. Now they do. Okay, great.
Seemingly have very different powers present, tying them together. The Sailor Scouts all have very different elemental or energy powers and unique accessories with useful abilities, but they're also all associated with planets, and their powers are derived from those planets' corresponding alchemical and or mythological elemental associations. And when later seasons start introducing more magical girls, they still all have space-related associations and vibes. The theming is rock solid, but
the theming of what?
And the colors. Red, talk about the colors. Where's the colors?
All the colors
talk about
are different.
Explain the colors.
The only thing,
what is red?
Yeah, the only thing that's the same is they're wearing the outfits, and they're all girls.
What is purple? What is green? Why is yellow here not earth but lightning? But green is also lightning.
And that.
But green is also water, while blue is water.
Lita,
but what is going on, red?
Yeah, Lita has the symbol, the alchemical symbol for wood. I think her power is wood, so lightning and leaves. Or I think that's her.
But that's not that. This is watery animation stuff.
I know.
All nonsense.
That's room for variation. And even within the core cast, the ability to chuck a fireball is useful in very different circumstances to the ability to fill an area with obscuring mist. Just because the power sets are thematic with one another...
The power sets are thematic with one another. What the hell you talk...
That's not a sentence.
How is fire thematic to water? How is...
It's elements. Ooh...
Lightning is an element.
Yes.
Wood?
It's in Pokemon. And Sailor Moon is Pokemon.
So was it Uranus or who's the one who controls time? Is time an element? I can't remember. Saturn? No, she's gravity or something like. I can't remember.
No, but wood is an element.
Okay, if we're going back, I don't know how long. Aristotle? Maybe? No, not even.
Wood and metal are elements. In certain types of Buddhism, they are, and yoga, and. But then we also have other elemental cycles. But
to say the power sets are thematic, what is happening? What are we talking about anymore?
Feng Shui.
Completely interchangeable in the actual effects they're capable of. And in fact, it's narratively beneficial to ensure that the power sets aren't interchangeable, and everyone's got at least one strength that makes them uniquely suited to solve some specific problem.
Okay, so they are thematically similar, but some of them aren't. And that's good, because you need those skills so they can solve problems that no one else can.
We should congratulate Red on this scam she's pulling.
I don't know what she's saying.
I think she has this down to a T, where she is structuring this very consistently to saying thing and then saying except for then.
Yeah, everything.
But trying to tell us she's trying to tell us a general rule, but always tells us except for when it's not.
Yeah.
It's great.
It's like everyone's an amazing MacGyver, but only one MacGyver can do the one thing that no one else can do. And you're like, what?
Except when he can't.
Except you have to call the other MacGyver. Like, what? And he's blue. He's blue for some reason. The blue is, you can't do red things. Like, okay.
The theme actually frequently give their members elemental associations, which usually plays into the color coding, of course. This is a very useful way to ensure that the characters all have different strengths and weaknesses.
So the X-Men...
What is pink?
So wait a second. So we have all these powers and they're color-coded in, I don't know, Sailor Moon. But...
The theme actually frequently give their members...
In the X-Men, the colors have nothing to do with their powers. Like, okay, great.
Elemental associations, which usually plays into the color coding.
The turtles also don't have elemental powers. What's going on?
Unless bow staffs are purple. I don't know.
Explain the colors. Like, she could explain the colors in the different uses.
Maybe.
Like, why is the leader red? Why is red fire?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, it sounds basic, but why is the color red used with fire associations? You could say, ask this very simple question and give the very simple and obvious answer. And then you could also ask, well, why is Raphael red?
See, that would require...
Because he's not the leader. He's not the leader of the turtles. Why is he red? Oh, is it because he is very brash and very headstrong? He's very aggressive. Because, well, fire is a very aggressive thing. So the aggressive character usually gets that, but it's also often the leader color. But here's why Leonardo, the blue guy, the light blue guy, has the leader color.
Yeah, so in order for this to work, she has to actually have an understanding of color theory or color association in art, and that's why we have certain colors depict, let's say, hazard symbols or Achtung, or yellow, black, white,
Achtung.
red. Yeah, we have certain symbols, the colors of the sun, the colors of grass, the colors of the ocean, to represent colors to human behavior. So hitting the brakes, hitting the gas, slowing down, that sort of thing. She would have to go into, let's say, why does Star Trek use red for command? Why does Mass Effect use red for command? Or blue, or black, or...
Where we get back into the leader thing.
Yeah, for roles. So why does that? Why do we have that? What's the cultural significance? Where does that come from? That she would have to do. And then you look at, oh, wow, Power Rangers does that too. Why is that? What's the color association? Why are girls pink? Why are other girls white or yellow? Like, what's the deal with that? And there's cultural reasons for that. And
why is the sky blue, red, orange, purple, greenish, or gray, or the color of a dead TV channel?
Why are stop signs red? Exactly. What's the value of that? Why does that always occur? Why? In certain European countries, they use blue to mean go as opposed to green. So, why? There are cultural reasons for that. And I think I learned this back
because
in high
some
school.
people are red-green blind.
Yeah, there's many reasons to do that, exactly. So that's what you would have to get into to explain color-coded stuff outside of your bare basic, elemental nonsense, because not everyone follows that. Anyway.
Useful way to ensure that the characters all have different strengths and weaknesses, that their powers all look different, so it's easy to tell who's doing what.
Unless you're the X-Men.
And that different characters can be uniquely challenged by putting them in different situations.
That's not... What? Let's put the Yellow Ranger in a unique situation? Like, what are you talking about? What does that have to do with anything? What? Does the person who control water, fight in the grass and they're disadvantaged? Is that what you're getting at?
A random idea struck her head, but she didn't even finish the first one.
Like, where are you going with this? Like, give us an example. What are you talking about? We put Riker, who's a red shirt, or he has a red vest, whatever you want to call his shirt, in a scenario where you need a Geordie, and he's the science officer. Is he going to screw up? I don't know. Is that what you're getting?
He's going to call Neelix.
He's going to call Data and solve the problem for him. That was the go-to. Data, come over here. What is this? Okay, fix it. All right.
Mental coding of the character's power set is unique. When it comes to a color-coded team with a theme, the characters can't get...
Red, why did you geometric theme your hero team here? With the circle, the triangle, the pentagon, the square, and the stick?
I don't know.
That's 0, 1, 3, 5, and 4. So 2 doesn't really work. But it's the same as the numbers on the guys. Hey, why did you make the red guy the one who's in the center? Why is that your leader? Red, can you explain that? What does that have to do?
I haven't seen a surprising... I thought she'd jump into the Green Lantern Corps and talk about all the color, because that is a pretty obvious example of color representing a team and having very specific abilities based off the emotion of the color.
Oh, you mean like red being anger, like fire, and blue being the color of hope, the color of the sky? That is the color of hope as we use it.
Yeah, like
and such.
There's lots of examples she could have used and given examples, because I don't like what? This is all subjectively theoretical crap. It's like, okay, when she gave examples, at least my brain could go, oh, okay. But then she contradicted herself in the next paragraph. So I'm like, oh, so it doesn't apply.
The whole thing is about color coding, at least by the title. Or she tries to come back to it once in a while, and not for a second in 7.5 minutes of a 17-minute video has she explained colors.
What do they mean? What's the value?
Yes, red. 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 Rot.
They'll start to lose that team cohesion. A party like...
Wait. Let's rewind that.
But even if the elemental coding of the character's power set is unique, when it comes to a color-coded team with a theme, the characters can't get too unique or they'll start to lose that team cohesion. A party like Team Avatar...
Wait, you mean like the X-Men?
The best example to reinforce what you say, the best thing I can think of is Tommy from Power Rangers, because he was like the rebel. He sort of came in late, and he was.
Oh, you mean he has a very fiery attitude?
He was he white? Was he green? I can't remember what Ranger color he was, but he was like his own guy, right? He wasn't part of the team until later.
Oh, I mean, you mean the Green Ranger?
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. But that was like he wasn't part of the team, but he did the same thing. He had the same power. He was a lot strong. So he was so strong, he was independent, sort of deal. And then they said, "Okay, you're part of the team, and you got to help us fight the bad guys." So that makes sense to what she just said, I guess. But to say they're too unique, or else they'll lose team cohesion, that implies a plot point of a certain story. Please, Red, what story? What are you talking about? What is this? Is so, if you come up with a theory for a rule and say, if you have a color-coded team and Iceman is blue and Storm is white and blah, 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 if, I don't know, Cyclops starts being able to teleport or whatever, and his color is red, then he can't be the leader anymore because he has more than one power? Is that it? Is that what she's getting at? Because in the X-Men, there's plenty of stories with the X-Men where their powers mutate and they have more than one power, or they can fly, or they can get super strong or whatever. And that's usually at puberty or whatever. So I don't see how that's a bad part of the story or a bad part of a team dynamic, because there's plenty of teams where that happens. And you could see that in Generation X of, pretty much the next generation of X-Men, where everyone's growing their powers. They're kids, they're growing up. Husk is learning how to shift her skin. Skin is learning how to move his skin. Jonathan is learning to control his pure psionic energy. So everyone's doing their own thing. Jubilee is there too. So that's a normal storyline for the X-Men, I think. So again, I want to know what she's talking about.
Theming and color coding aplenty, but teams with a theme, and instead come across as a bunch of very different people teaming up because they're choosing to, not because they're a matched set of minor variants on a core design philosophy.
The core design philosophy of whom? Of what? The writer? The artist?
They have elemental skills, which is what you talked about before.
But who's the core design philosopher? Is it the writer saying we're going to make a rainbow team? And unfortunately, the black-colored guy is too powerful. He can't be on the team anymore. Is that what she's getting at? Or is it just the individual character in the story has an arc where they leave and go do their own thing and come back later? Like what do we? Is it the visual artist? Is it? What are you talking about? I don't get does the guy who's the black themed character design his own outfit as black? Is that what I want to know who we're talking about here? The core design philosophy. Was it Jack Kirby? Like, what are we talking? Like, who?
sets, which are all extremely distinct from one another. Even the most basic chuck an element at someone's head move looks and works totally differently when it's done by Toph versus when it's done by Katara.
Okay, so she's talking about, or the example is Avatar.
Wait, I need to hear that her thingy here.
Oh,
what moves she's talking about again? I think this is an irrelevant detail.
Distinct from one another. Even the most basic chuck an element at someone's head move looks and works totally differently when it's done by Toph versus when it's done by Katara.
Because they use completely different skills. And the choreography for Avatar was actually The Last Airbender, was actually assisted by real martial artists who could, if you knew anything about, insert here, in this case, martial arts, you could understand that there are certain martial arts and schools and sub-schools where you can adapt moves to, as some say, to different elements. Which is it's a mental trick in order to get you into the spirit of the thing, where when you think of something, you actually behave a little different. And that's how you can do something that sounds magical and esoteric, but is actually very mundane. Do the same punch or kick in the element of fire or the element of earth. And you will step different just by thinking of it.
Isn't this...
And hi, Ginga. But here, this is even more clear. The moves done by the Earthbenders are all way more strong in their execution, and water is way more in flow, way closer to a dance. Aang twirls around much more, because that's air. It's all very well designed.
Isn't this...
And that has nothing to do with what you just talked about.
Yeah, but isn't this the same with every single character of even like Sailor Moon? They all have the same origin story or whatever. With every like, Power Rangers, they all have their own style. Everyone's doing their own thing uniquely because
she's talking here about specific moves of Toph whacks somebody differently than Katara.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's a different person with a different
discipline.
Who learned a completely different. Basically, like it's all bending. Yes, it's all martial arts, but effectively, you can see earthbending martial arts as karate and waterbending martial arts as qigong. They're different martial arts. Yes, they both kick. Yes, they both punch. But they do these moves different, with different details, with different fingers and fist styles on how you hold your limbs. That's different things, Red.
It's like they're unique characters in a story.
It's like saying the kickboxer punches differently than the other boxing thing. I'm sorry, I don't know boxing.
The karate guy. The karate guy punches differently than a Thai boxing guy.
I try to make some Western analogy here.
Yeah, no, I don't know why she said that when she was harping on about unity and all these color coded doing the same but different. It's like, what you just described. She basically just said this 2 minutes ago, didn't she? Everyone's unique and doing their own thing. It's like, yeah,
everyone's the same unless they aren't.
No shit. Yeah, it's great.
And here we see how they are this different.
Stock animation elemental manifestations both of the properties of the element itself and the personality and training of the character using it, and they play into the choreography
That's only because the makers of Avatar: The Last Airbender cared. If you make a video game and you only do the bare bones, then your elemental blasts are just a flick on the screen, maybe not even that, but you just say, oh, number go up. And that's it.
Choreography very differently depending on the specific of moveset is very rare in full-blown color-coded teams with a theme, where most of the character's primary abilities in combat will break down into the same general space of color-coded basic attack with a stock animation, stronger attack with a long...
No. You see, this is a technique in animation that Sailor Moon used because they had to save time and money. So they would repeat these things over and over every episode for the sake of time and money. So I don't... Like they could have animated within the scene with the backgrounds.
That's just casting a spell, and every season has a different spell. That's all.
Lock in season 2, neither of which will do much, and a big finishing move.
And you leave out that that they never use the spell from the previous season anymore.
As the budget gets bigger and they get more time to animate.
I mean, they could use all of the previous spells still to do different things, but they don't.
Yeah, the big thing was it Sailor Moon Super? I can't remember, where they used 3D animation with the cell shading, and people didn't like it, so they went back to classical animation. So they thought it would work. It was cheaper and faster to do. People didn't like it, so they went back. They just had a hand drawn. Plus,
at least they learned, contrary to Western studios.
Yeah. Plus, in the '90s, the whole thing was with, I think it was in R, where they started drawing all the nipples, and that had to be censored for Western audiences. So it's like, okay, they didn't do that again. So that's just animators doing their job.
Yeah.
That's
nothing. So here's the base explanation of how Sailor Moon works is that the Sailor Scouts are Pokemon that only have one skill slot. They only have one attack, and every season they learn a new attack and have to forget the old one. And that's very strange. But that doesn't work with Red's argumentation here.
Anyway, stock animation in Sailor Moon. Like, yes, that was a thing for each season.
Move to end the episode. Basically, different effects while still being thematically and structurally extremely similar.
Thematically and structurally extremely similar as what? As stock animation? Yes, obviously.
An earth attack is the same as a fire attack.
No. Oh, what did you say here? What is she trying to say? I don't know.
How is Hawk Woman similar to Superman?
I'm pretty sure the DCAU didn't do the stock footage thing.
No.
Like once or twice, and even then it was pretty rare.
Fine superhero teams, the power sets will have different effects and none of that structural and mechanical similarity that makes every Sailor Scout kind of feel like they're mashing the same buttons on the controller. That's not to say these characters are interchangeable. In fact, one benefit of holding the power sets relatively constant is that it gives the writers space to concentrate on elements of characterization that set the teammates apart.
Are you saying because of their power level or whatever skill set they have, that allows the writers to characterize them differently? What are you're going to
The funny thing, they actually did do that a little bit in Power Rangers, but that doesn't apply here, though.
Yeah, Power Rangers is pretty much all kinds of, Sentai, so that's its own thing. There's a little,
it's derived from Sentai,
yeah,
yes.
There's a little bit of Sentai in Sailor Moon, obviously with the posing and what have you, but to argue that they're characterized through their posing and through their unknown ability, and we'll introduce that later, is like, no. They go through a change. They go through a personal conflict, like their friend or their supposed boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, is in trouble, so they get riled up, and Ray discovers a new fire spell or whatever. That's about it. I wouldn't call that characterization, though. That's just an art.
Yeah, and again, if you let's just say Sentai specifically. Sentai does explicitly do that, but sure. Sailor Moon, really?
Yeah, it's the best I can remember is Luna telling Sailor Moon, "Oh, by the way, you have a tiara. It could do this." Oh, okay, boom, and now she can throw a tiara. Oh, your wand can do this, or your whatever. It's like she just gets told to do it, or she gets an upgrade to her crystal, and now she can transform into something more powerful. Usually as a result of these narrative changing the character, like Chibi USA or or her future daughter, whatever her name was.
Chibiusa. Chibi USA.
Yeah, I know. I just when I was a kid, I heard that. I was like, that makes sense. I'll call her USA. So I just kept saying that. So
Chibi USA might be a really great America advertising anime.
Exactly. When it came to North America, I was like, that's USA. All right, Chibi USA. Anyway, that happens within the narrative. Nothing to do with the superhero or the superheroine of the Sailor Scouts. So everything happens to the side, and then as a result of that change, that arc, then they get their power and they get their emotion, and like Serena becomes evil, or one of the scouts become mind controlled and they can do something different. Something like that will happen. Same with friends who get powers from like seeds, or they drink something, or they get mind controlled and they do something weird, and that causes them to have a character arc, or we learn about them more. So that's where it occurs. It doesn't occur during combat, though. I haven't really seen that. It might. I don't remember that. I don't think that was the level of Sentai in Sailor Moon, where, like, you know, she has like a machine, and the machine adapts and, like, I don't know, retracts claws or something like that would happen in Sentai. But no, not Sailor Moon. It's all magical stuff. It's all like hope and defending my friends and not getting angry. Don't do that. And boom, you know. So, no, not really.
It's common for color-coded teams with a theme to fall very strongly into the archetypes of the five-man band, and that's only slightly because that trope was codified about Power Rangers in the first place.
Okay, I'll give it to Power Rangers, but not Sailor Moon. She's got like 7 or 8 scouts at a certain point. Plus,
again, if anything, give it to Sentai, since that came before both of these.
Yeah, I'd say Sentai in general. I think that's a good number. I don't have to look at all the posters, but it's probably 4 and then 5.
What's the elemental similarity difference of the Ginyu Force, Ginga?
Oh,
well, it's a parody. You're really asking me about that?
Yeah.
Yes, because Red needs to bring it up, unless otherwise it's incomplete.
Well,
she can't skip on the Ginyu Force.
Okay, but going back to her iteration of the number 5, we can talk about. I brought up the Jason character in Power Rangers. He was like his own independent guy until they accepted him into the team. So it's just a number. Like, there's no real value to it after a certain point in the story. So,
you want to go all the way with it, bring in the Fantastic Four as well.
Yeah, I mean, the X-Men do their own thing. All like X-Force, Excalibur, Alpha Flight. I mean,
the Avengers, all that whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not 5. There's all kinds of different numbers, and the leaders are always different.
Yeah, Sentai and by extension Power Rangers is usually 5, sometimes 3, and they expand further.
Yeah, exactly.
Yada yada. That whole thing. Obviously, the Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
The X-Men is so much more. The Avengers is at least 6. Justice League is at least the 7 founding members, etc., etc. That whole thing, you know.
Who is the 5th turtle?
Venus.
There's a 5th turtle?
Yeah, Venus.
I didn't know.
That's not. He's pulling your leg.
I am not. It is from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation from Saban Entertainment, where they created a 5th turtle with Venus.
See,
is the original author involved?
I think Eastman and Laird might have been involved with that, even if just a little.
Was it the 90s? If it was, then they might.
It was late 90s. Yeah.
Oh, okay, it's late 90s, maybe not. Yeah.
Were any hard drugs involved?
Well,
no, actually.
Then
it's not real turtles.
Oh,
really?
I was going to mention the same way Tommy was the 6th Ranger. I was going to bring up Turtles has Casey Jones. He's not really a turtle, obviously, but he's
an unofficial member of the team. So yeah,
he's
a mascot. He's a human mascot.
Basically,
a mascot to the Turtles.
Yeah,
that's a odd way of describing. I just thought because he's
it's an inversion.
Sure, he's in the setting of the same scenario, doing the same thing, And then he sees these guys.
They even have the rivalry thing going on between him and Raphael usually.
Yeah, he's trying to upstage them and who's better at stopping the foot, etc. So that is, I don't know what trope that is exactly, but it's basically a sidekick. So.
Well, and also rival character in that case as well.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking of Tommy. I was like, he's like a rival to the team.
Sixth Rangers are also sometimes rival to one of the Rangers or all of them at once.
We were trying to describe
until they joined.
Yeah, because she was going off about how the Rangers are colored and they have certain powers. I'm like, well, yeah, it doesn't really matter. He's white sometimes.
That's just part of the core aesthetic of the IP. That's not necessarily anything specific unless said otherwise.
But what when it is the enemies, like in Mega Man?
Oh, the robot masters and the Mavericks and stuff.
They're color coded.
Well,
but they're not heroes.
No. When
Red, what's going on? Is it only about the color coded team when it's heroes, or is it also when it's not the heroes?
It depends which Mega Man you're referring to, because sometimes.
At least classic and X, where it is that same formula, you fight a robot master or a maverick per level. But I don't think that applies too much here, because like the Mavericks and robot masters, they work together every game, but you still fight them one at a time, like Monster of the Week.
Remember, her title is all about color-coded teams with a theme.
I know,
and she mixes up whether the theme is something else or whether the theme is actually the colors. But so it's a color-coded team with a color theme. Red.
I don't think the Mega Man bosses apply too much because, they're working together, but because of how the core gameplay works, you still fight them one at a time.
I was just trying to jab at a thing, Red.
It's that's hard because the robot bosses have their own design and their own color, and then when Mega Man gets their power...
And sometimes their own motivations separate from the main villain.
Yeah, and then the colors theme is based off that power, so it's just basically a palette swap until we get to X, where X actually gets armor and a helmet and all these other... he gets other upgrades that make him look different.
Which, mind you, is not the same thing as the boss powers, but
yeah.
That does still contribute, to be fair.
Well... if we go through the whole Maverick hunting idea, and there's a whole team, and there's X, and there's Zero, and there's other guys, and you're like, all right, maybe they're part of a team in the future, and they have different abilities, and X has his abilities, but he's powered down, he has to power back up, stuff like that. It's like, okay, technically that's color coded. He's the blue bomber, X is red, or Zero is red, and blah blah blah. So it's like, it's stretching it.
Yeah, again, this doesn't entirely apply to Mega Man in general, though.
I know. Yeah, I'm just I'm trying to give her some credence here, because so far we've been talking about Sailor Moon and the Power Rangers, and then X-Men briefly. And half of what she's saying, actually more than half of what she's saying, does not follow logic very well. So.
And even then, X-Men is a bit of a stretch, since at first, in some version, they do have like matching uniforms, which again kind of breaks the argument. They would have, if for this to apply to X-Men, you would have to go specifically 90s onward, when they all do have their own distinct looks.
They go with the yellow, blue,
Yeah, it's like Cyclops is the only one that kept it, if anything. Maybe Xavier with the chair, but everyone else.
Well,
and Logan always had the yellow, almost always had the yellow suit to begin with. So not necessarily him, but
I was going to mention the Phoenix Saga with the red and the black uniforms of all the reborn versions of Cyclops and
black uniforms, which then carried over into the Ultimate Universe and the movie.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that Ultimate. Oh geez,
I mean, at least it's like, as a side note to that, since I mentioned this, like at least in terms of the Ultimate Universe, we at least got the X-Men Legends stuff out of that. But that's beside the point.
Yeah, the color has nothing to do with anything. It's just the color.
But again, with X-Men specifically, the best argument you can make for X-Men in terms of this would have to be the 90s incarnation, where they all look distinct.
All right. 9 minutes. I think we're half done. Oh my god.
very similar physical abilities, it becomes less important to highlight what they all can do and more interesting to unpack what each of them chooses to do. Even if everyone on the team is capable of roughly the same space of ass-kicking, the designated smart guy is going to engage with the battlefield very differently to the designated angry guy. And in their downtime between fights, they've probably got some very unique personal arcs or struggles going on to keep things interesting in the B-plot zone. And because stories of this variety very commonly focus on highlighting teamwork above all else, it is an absolute rule of the narrative that everybody has to contribute to the story. It's quite common for every member of the team to wind up getting at least a little time in the spotlight to
I don't know.
That doesn't always happen, though.
Yeah, I remember many comics where fans were complaining that Leech and other minor characters on the X-Men weren't getting their own independent, because we're talking about ensemble stories like Generation X.
Yeah, if you want to talk about the X-Men in general, like Wolverine always got the most spotlight because he was the standout, especially despite the fact that he wasn't a mutant at first, let alone a member of the X-Men. But they developed him into that position, and it was like he was still a breakout hit.
Yeah, they gave him his own comic eventually, and I remember one time it was like there was 3 Wolverine comics, there was 7 Batman comics.
Also, the first member of the X-Men to get his own movies.
Yeah, so
the only one currently.
They will retcon things to make them their own worlds. I get that. So, there was plenty of feedback. When are we getting a Leech episode? We actually got a Leech episode in Generation X. Leech is this little mutant dude who nullifies any other mutant power in like a 20-30 meter radius, I think. So he's always like this outcast. And he was always playing with this other little mutant who had thought bubbles. So he could communicate to you with thought bubbles. So we saw it as a thought bubble. It was always telepathically. But he spoke in comics, essentially. And he was always hanging out with Leech. I can't remember his name. And that was the cute thing, these 2 little mutants.
But how can he communicate when he's in the vicinity of Leech?
Exactly. But he could. So,
that makes no sense.
Because it was fourth wall break. Because he's making a comic in his bubble of a picture or something. So for whatever reason, like that was the cool thing about these 2 little mutant guys. And they tried to make it. They did like 2 comics about him. It was fine. So the people got what they wanted. But again, you can't really base an entire narrative over a guy who doesn't talk and a guy who nullifies everyone else.
A guy who makes the setting boring again.
Everyone's normal. It's like, oh my god, we could be normal together with Leech. It's great. Anyway,
contributions to the group and how are unhelpful or not as cool as their frontliner teammates. Usually these episodes will put in a lot of work to explain how exactly this character's unique skill set really does benefit the team, and how they are all equal contributors and all equally vital. But I'd actually call this a bit of a double-edged sword. See, because the color-coded team with a theme operates as a matched set, it's frequently kind of rare for the team to undergo any sort of major party splitting or anything that really alters the structure of the team. This is unique to this specific slice.
Yeah, but be very specific. Are we talking Voltron? Are we talking Power Rangers? Like, we need the Power Rangers to form their big, awesome robot. So you need everyone on the team. There's no question. So,
well, mind you, Power Rangers are so often had shakeups involving that.
Sure.
But and also again, like to go back to the spotlight thing. Usually, the 6th Ranger stole the show.
Yeah.
Especially Tommy.
Yeah.
To the point where later in the series' run, it's like they literally even had a later season have an episode dedicated to the fact it's like, yeah, the 6th Ranger shouldn't always steal the show. The other 5 still have to like get off their asses and save the world when it matters. Yeah, I don't know if it was Power Rangers or if it was the Sentai counterpart of that season that had that episode originally, but they still addressed that specific snag in the concept of the 6th Ranger.
Yeah, I think that's normal in most comic book stories where the writer sees the failings or the problems of, let's say, a Batman character and like, oh, he can't kill, oh, he doesn't sleep, oh, he doesn't have a girlfriend, blah, blah, blah. And they play with that as a narrative. And that's great. That's normal. Find the faults of the story and address them as a as a lampshade, as swept under the rug, or at least to make aware that the narrative is not stupid. And the audience is like, thank you. I was wondering about that. What does Alfred do in his spare time? I don't know. Let's find out. So stuff like that is normal. And we appreciate when the author is listening to feedback, at least, if he's not aware himself. The author should be aware, obviously. But sometimes they're on a deadline or their focus is not that book. So.
Since more eclectic superhero teams have no such limitation. It's easy to give a character a solo arc or split off 2 or 3 team members that maybe haven't had much time to chat and just let them hang out or banter or deal with a fun little problem on the side. Sometimes you'll even get scenarios where the entire team is in trouble and it's up to one member of the team to die hard everybody else out of danger and a unique opportunity to show off their personal skills. But this kind of scoped-in focus episode is very rare.
What's the color coding between Captain America and Thor?
I was going to say it's like, yeah, that's more common in Marvel and DC stuff because every hero is their own brand in those, as opposed to Power Rangers where it's all one brand.
This is the problem with a lot of the ensemble casts, like JLA, where if you guys ever have read a JLA from the 90s, there's barely any time every chapter to have a story about all the main JLA characters because you get maybe half a page per doing their thing, and unless the plot is very specific to one, then it's...
Well, again, like I said, because they have the team stuff like JLA, Justice Society, all that, but it's easier for the big two because, again, all their characters also have, for the most part, their own books as well, where they can have their own time in the spotlight, separate from the team stuff. As opposed to something like Sentai or Tokusatsu in general, where it is all one team, all one brand, no matter what. Unless, well, there is a bit of an exception with the more recent Boom Studios comics and such, but that was not a thing from the jump.
Yeah, I have a problem with this video as a premise. If she just stuck it to teams, not color-coded teams, but just teams with a theme, like Power Rangers or... Captain Planet. It's like, oh, this is their role. This is their goal. This is what they want to do. And then focus on why that's good or bad or how that works, as opposed to Sailor Mars is associated with the god of war and therefore she controls fire. And you're like, yeah, so is that supposed to mean something to me?
Yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it's obvious. It's like that's all it's supposed to do. It's flashy. She has a fiery attitude compared to Serena. Go down the line, right? That's fine.
Why is that specific planet the god of war? Why is Mars Mars? Why is that is it because it's red? And that's again the aggressive thing, so we associate war with it, and that's why you don't say all these things.
Yeah, you'd have to actually do research and find quotes from what's her face, who created Sailor Moon, and say, okay, why did you make her that way? Well, I wanted to follow the concept, and I thought a nice Shinto priestess would be very, very serene, but when she gets angry, she gets very, very angry. Like, oh, great, something like that, and you'd be like, oh, that's good, not complicated, it's just good enough to understand. And if you read the rest of Sailor Moon, it's supposed to be a romance. It's supposed to be this epic tale of reincarnation, of refining your family, and trying to protect the world. Or in her case, eventually we discover how powerful Serena is, that she's protecting the galaxy from what have you. Same with Voltron. Like you don't even realize the scale of the power that Voltron has, because you just see the fights, and they have a sword and they fly through the space. It's like, that's no big deal. Voltron is so powerful, can fly around the galaxy if it wanted in a few seconds. It's like, it's okay? Really? This thing can destroy stars with no problems? Like, all right. Anyway.
I mean, they literally put that thing up against the original Dino Megazord, and Voltron, to beat it with minimal effort.
Yeah, it's a pretty wild story with Voltron, but I do like the concept of that was probably the first one I remember outside of Grandizer that said, okay, we have a team of people controlling a giant death machine, and it's this order of knights and what have you. So I'm like, okay, That's a bit of science fiction there with kids shows.
The theme, and I think that's for a few mechanical. See, lots of color-coded teams with a theme sort of operate on a threat of the week genre model that follows a very strict formula outside of important season finales, which can be very unpredictable and status quo breaking. But the mid-season episode-to-episode playing out of these stories will usually almost all be very similar. That formula is as follows. The overarching, inaccessible big bad schemes in their secret evil lair with their 1 to 4 incompetent lackeys bantering by their side, and constructs a new villain of the week to cause problems in theoretical service to their large-scale evil plan. The villain of the week gets unleashed on an unsuspecting township that looks...
Why did we change topic?
I don't know. Is she describing...
suspiciously like a back...
Is she describing the Power Rangers? Is she describing...
The monster of the week formula?
Yeah, is it like Captain Power and the Soldiers of the Future? Is it...
I mean, it applies to all of them, but like you said, yes, she's not being specific.
Yeah, are we just saying these are shows for kids? This is what they did back in the day.
Like this is the formula. Yeah.
It doesn't. This has nothing to do with the color-coded team with a theme. Whatever. We still don't know what the theme is, guys. We just know they're color-coded.
Disengage from their B-plots to notice the threat, everyone suits up to fight it. Our heroes might get to take out a small army of interchangeable minions before they turn their attention to the main problem of the week, take turns using their weakest attacks, realize they aren't working, then switch.
This is really just Sentai specific.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big monster creature thing.
Give me your force, please.
Slightly more powerful attacks, which also will not work. Sometimes this is when the villain of the week undergoes a transformation, or unlocks a second health bar, or gets real big. Then our heroes decide to switch from doing the things that never work to...
What is... Did you guys hear that? I've been hearing that. I thought that was outside. That's an actual sound in the music track she's using. The screeching, It sounds like a train. Rewind that.
Slightly more powerful attacks, which also will not work. Sometimes this is when the villain of the week undergoes a transformation, or unlocks a second health bar, or gets real big. Then our heroes decide to switch from doing the things that never work to do it.
Did you hear that?
Yeah. It's like a train in the distance hitting the brakes.
I thought that was outside my window. I was like, what the...
But the thing here is like, yeah, this is Red. This is just Sentai specific. You could why don't you apply this with video games?
Well, she said the second health bar,
because
right?
you don't have the, but there you don't have the minion goon forces that are interchangeable. Look at Lufia. You have your color coded team as well. You have the leader has red hair.
Oh, okay.
Then his wife has green hair. Then the first strong guy you have is blonde. And you have the elf who is blue. And you have a couple other characters in between.
Okay. I was thinking of, was that Capcom RPG?
But what does it mean, Red? What do the colors mean?
What was it called? No. The main character was Ryu. He was Dragon.
Street Fighter?
Sorry?
Street Fighter?
No. It was an RPG. There's like Breath of Fire. Sorry.
I was gonna say Capcom and the main character's Ryu. I'm just like that. That calls for something very specific nowadays.
Was it a Capcom game that did Breath of Fire?
I will check because I'm not sure either.
I thought it was, but they had very distinct color-coded hair. Mina was an angel, always an angel. I think Ryu was.
Yeah, it was Capcom.
It was I thought so. Interesting series. And in one of them, you play the villain, which I thought was kind of cool. He had white hair. Ooh.
And will unleash some sort of big everyone's weapons into a big weapon, but can also just be a specialized move from the designated most important member of the team. And we'll get back to that guy in a minute, but just by looking at this formula, we can see why it would be kind of tricky to make a full episode about any specific subset of these characters, since the rhythm of every major fight is basically the same, and it can't end unless all the heroes combine their powers.
I don't think it's the rhythm of the fight. I think you're listing the entire episode format called the episodic formula on this. Okay, whatever.
Also, I'm just like almost like Tricky. Tell that to Toei, who's been doing it with Sentai for the past 50 years.
I know, but this has nothing to do with everything else you talked about. This is just specific to Power Ranger.
Specifically Tokusatsu. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and with
The monk.
and with these things, you always had your focus episode on one character, and I think in the beginning she mentioned that.
Yeah, but
that you had your focus episodes.
Look at the formula for a Sailor Moon. Like, you could follow a similar formula, but it's always Serena has some personal issue. She's late. She's flirting or wants to know about Tuxedo Mask or Darien or whatever. Her friend's in a pickle. Her best friend's mom's in a pickle. She does something. They have to do some investigating. Oh, it's someone from the Dark Zone or whatever, Queen Beryl or whatever. Oh, they transformed into a monster. Let me go transform into Sailor. Like, that's a very similar formula. Obviously, the not giant monster, but something similar where they have to like evacuate and get everyone together. So, and then she has to figure out how to defeat it, and she fails, and then here comes Tuxedo Mask to give her a hint, and she figures it out, or Ray comes by, or Lita comes by, and does their thing. So, yeah, we can do these layouts for everything. I don't see what the point is, specifically to the color-coded team, because that would be specific to the story. So why even bother doing this? Like, what's the point? Do you want to become a Sentai writer? Or is that what we're doing here? We're like, oh, by the way, this is how it works. It's like, no shit.
Yeah, this could have been a video just focused specifically on the tokusatsu stuff, but because all she said it best applies to that.
This is the same with Buffy. This is the same with Angel. This is the same with Smallville. This is the same with any Freak of the Week sort of scenario. Something weird happens, you got to stop it.
And also Threadna mentions in the chat where this is exclusively a Power Rangers rule. But he reminding me that they aren't allowed to escalate to their most powerful stuff immediately. So that everything they do has worked on a monster at some point. It's from the beginning. Power Rangers established that rule in universe where they can't use their best stuff immediately. They have to like match the monster of the week or whatever tit for tat first, and then if they escalate, they then respond.
Kind of reminds me.
What's the justification for that?
Yeah, they don't have enough firepower. Essentially.
No, mind you, it's like they do. It's just that. The real explanation test. That's just to maintain the formula of the overall format. But I will give them credit in the very first season establishing that rule in universe just to justify that as an in universe fact. I mean, mind you, there also are exceptions throughout the franchise where, like, they do escalate a little bit. Sometimes they go for the combined weapon immediately, but that's because the threat of that specific moment at that moment warrants that escalation at that specific moment.
Yeah, this is a common theme in not every science fiction anime, but there's a lot of animes, even fantasy ones like Hellsing, where there's a limiter on what the individual can do, and they have to ask authority from the military or their boss. Like in Hellsing, you have to ask what's her name, Hellsing, can I do this thing, and I give you authority, and then he could turn off his limiter and he becomes super powerful. Which is kind of the whole point of the last episode of Hellsing Ultimate. They want Alucard to go crazy, so that was neat because it was part of the plot. But yeah, no, this is how it should go, because you don't use the big guns unless you really, really have to. And it's justified.
Yeah. And also another part of that is that in Power Rangers, usually the sixth Ranger is explicitly stronger than the main team. And that is a plot point in certain seasons.
Cool.
The monster of the week. In fact, it's very common to have an episode where one of the characters spends most of the runtime refusing the call and being unwilling or unable to participate, and the rest of the team spends the entire fight scene getting their asses kicked while they lament that they can't do this without the whole team being present and accounted for, and their missing buddy then turns up at the very last minute to set things right. So while the episode's character-driven B-plot might focus on only a small subset of the cast, the combat encounters are all going to play out mostly on formula and mandate that the entire team is present to play their required parts. And while there's lots of room for fun characterization characterization within the confines of this formula, I do think this is a weakness that more loosely structured superhero teams don't deal with as much. I mean, there's nothing stopping a color-coded team with a theme from doing one of those more small-scope character-focused stories, or from mixing up the fight choreography, or even from letting someone other than the designated specialist guy get the final blow once in a while. But in the series that are more married to the genre conventions, you're usually not gonna see that very often. And on the subject of the designated specialist guy, we should really talk about that, because they're a pretty significant element in the formula. Sometimes the color-coded team with a theme has a team leader, with some kind of chosen one specialness about them that sets their powers apart from everyone else. This specialness can take a lot of forms, but mechanically speaking, they're usually the one whose job it is to dole out the big finishing blows.
Yes.
If they're part of a team with a combining giant robot, they probably form the head and call the shots when they bust out the big sword. In a Magical Girl series, they might be the only one who can bust out the unfuck the consequences of this bad guy power. Color coding wise, they can vary a lot, but their outfit will usually have some kind of bonus fanciness compared to the rest of the team, like gold trim or an extra ruffly petticoat. Now, in stories that feature these guys, a predictable phenomenon can start to arise. When you have a team of people who are all important, but there's one person on the team who's really important,
yeah, like I said
everyone
earlier,
else can start to feel very interchangeable and broadly not all that useful. And I think this is a fairly unique problem to this specific flavor of superhero team, where everyone is ostensibly a color-coordinated variant on a baseline core theme. More eclectic.
The theme of what? Okay. What does the Yellow Ranger theme what is it? What are we talking about? Is it different? Is that
cats?
If a theme is consistent, then say it's the color coordinates, it's the fact that she's Asian, she's yellow. I don't know. Give me something. What are we talking about? What's the pink theme of the Power? Like, what are you talking about? Is it a girl? Is that she's gymnastics? Like, what is happening?
No, at the very least, I'll say, like, in terms of Sentai, this point does hold, because, like I said earlier, Sixth Ranger usually takes the spotlight. And again, like I said, there was one episode in a specific season of Power Rangers where they do address that issue.
That's great.
To tell everyone else to get off their ass and save the world.
I don't mind that, but in this case, she's not being specific. She's showing what is this, DC? I'm not sure.
She's showing Justice League, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, that has nothing to do with what we were just talking about.
I think it's also unlimited, because I think this is the return of Grundy. But okay. Yeah, but again, like I said, with the leadership, let's just take Sentai specifically. Again, in Power Rangers and Sentai, it's usually Red that's the leader. Very rarely is it someone else. I know in a specific season, Pink is the leader because of how that specific Sentai was written. That's the story for that. But most of the time, it's Red. Occasionally, it's Sixth. I know when Tommy came back as White Ranger, and then 3 of them left and got replaced, like, he became the leader because of those specific circumstances, and because he was the most popular as well. But usually it's Red. Occasionally it's someone else. Sometimes Sixth. But that said, it's like, again, still not be specific with what she's saying there.
Yeah, I want her to be exact with her examples, because right now she's making this general rule, and it's either genre specific or series specific. And I'm still sitting there. Are we talking in generals? Because I don't know what the plot to apply all this to. Now that she's now showing DC stuff, I'm like, that does not make any sense.
Might have someone on the team who is the strongest or heaviest hitter, but they're usually not also narratively designated as God's favorite princess. And correspondingly, while every superhero team arguably has the designated most useless member, that character probably gets at least a few days in the limelight to justify why it's such a good idea to keep them around. The idea that, narratively speaking, everyone on the team is approximately equally badass and needs to be there, but there's only one person in the series who's allowed to win fights, can be a little bit weird in a Monster of the Week story format with a fight every episode. Now, some of this can be counterbalanced by a changing status quo. The series that personally bothered me the most with this phenomenon was Sailor Moon, because basically every other Sailor Scout starts off unable to end fights without Usagi, and then winds up power-scaled into irrelevance every time Sailor Moon adds a new ribbon to her uniform. But, to its credit, the story does some hard work to avoid Monster of the Week monotony, mostly by ensuring that the composition of the core cast varies wildly even within the space of a single season. It takes a good chunk of the first season to assemble the whole core squads, so the early episodes are operating with a skeleton crew, and subsequent seasons shake things up even further, which means even though it is extremely formulaic in its villain of the week model, and even though Sailor Moon is mechanically the only person who's allowed to get the finishing blow on basically any bad guy, the individual fights can still play out in very different ways, as new allies with unclear motivations tag in and out of the storylines, changing the formula and introducing new dramas into the character-driven B-plots. This is also a phenomenon I got to observe in my limited experience with Power Rangers, because even though many of the series have some designated cool guy 6th Ranger who shows up with extra special cool guy powers in a uniform that is simultaneously thematic with the others while still being uniquely radical, those characters rarely become permanent additions to the core cast without some sort of caveat to keep them from one-shotting everything. And as a bonus, the power sets in those shows can, with some shenanigans, be transferred between different characters.
The problem is that with Green Ranger specifically, it's because they ran out of stock footage for that suit, which is why they had to get creative with it.
Grades change hands, and allies tag in and out of the story, including some of those power curve breaking extra special cool guys, and that helps spare the rest of the cast from falling into general.
She was a one-off even in the Sentai version, mind you. With the clip she's showing right here. So, are you making the complaint about Sentai just in general, or with the Sentai specifically? Again, not being specific. And what gave it away was limited experience.
Yeah, it's kind of
which is why I'm here.
It's kind of hard to make a general rule to one series unless you're just making a video on one series. She's saying just unspecifically, this is the rule, and you're like,
there is there is. Well, okay, let's just take the Tokusatsu stuff specifically. Yes, with 6th and everything, and cases after 6th, because there's like extra Rangers every so often. Again, yeah, the general structure is similar, but again, like I just said, back in the very start of Power Rangers, they ran out of footage for the Green Ranger, so they had to make new stuff with that. That's why there was the shake up there with the lineup, but then Tommy became white in the 2nd season. And also, and again, mentioning this specific one-off Ranger, which just that concept on its own is pretty rare across both IPs. So not much of an argument there in terms of this whole topic. So, yeah. And again, I was going to finish off by saying, to go back to Green for a second in the very first season, in the original version, it's because Green was dying and did die by the end of the Sentai counterpart. Hence why in Power Rangers they had to get creative with it, because that's why they ran out of that footage. So, yep.
And this is
damn it, man! Come on.
actually one of the strengths of the color-coded team with the theme. By removing some of the wild chaos of your average superhero team, smaller alterations to the status quo can have comparatively much larger effect.
Okay, so it's good with the Power Rangers, but it's a weakness for the not Power Rangers.
Well, yes. Again, Power Rangers did have those shakeups every so often. I think I mentioned at some point before in an earlier Smudcast. Where in one season they literally had a member of the team die and be replaced by a character from the previous season.
Yeah, I understand.
That was one hell of a shakeup when that happened.
I understand the idea of, even watching NCIS, when you have members of a team that are beloved, but they get killed off. They want to do something with their careers differently, so the writers, ship them off to another role. And the problem was that they were fan favorites, so they wanted them back, and they end up.
Which is what happened with Tommy. Which is why they after they ran out of the Green Ranger footage from the Sentai, so they made new footage. They made up an excuse for him to come back as Green Ranger in new footage, and then once that dried up, once that reasoning ran its course in the 2nd season, they then brought him back as White Ranger with the 6th Ranger footage from what they were adapting at that point, and then they kept it on for as long as they could after that.
Yeah, I do recall the romance subplot of Ziva and Tony in NCIS, and then Ziva the actress got bored, Cote de Pablo, I think her name was, got bored for whatever reason. She was making crazy money and everyone loved her, and she didn't like the scripts, so they shipped her off, and I think his name was Michael something or other. Well, he was Tony DiNozzo in the show. What the hell was his actor's name? Anyway, he took off to do his own show called Bull. So when the show was getting not so good reviews, they decided to bring Ziva back for 1 or 2 episodes, and everyone was happy. And the idea was that she ended up finding Tony off screen, and they lived happily ever after. So not the greatest send-off after the previous send-off.
Yeah.
So, lots of shenanigans going on in stories with long-lasting plots or long-lasting characters, and they don't know how to end them. And this is the problem with any kind of serialized story. The plots are then secondary, and it's all a bunch of either rom-com or story of the week drama, and they're easily forgotten unless there's something special about them, like a new famous actor comes in as a guest star or what have you. So that's the problem with serialized stuff, is you need to have an overarching story for the value of the narrative to work. If not, it's basically a soap opera. There's nothing going on.
That important if 1 or 2 members of any of the Ninja Turtles isn't present and accounted for. And heaven forbid one of them gets too beat up to participate in the plot. A new super...
That happens all the time. The Ninja Turtles get beaten up all the time. They get thrown into a wall and they get knocked out, or only 2 are on patrol and they get caught up and 1 gets captured. Yeah.
Out for an episode of Justice League is so normal. Person turning up in a unique colored costume that is otherwise perfectly thematically resonant with your close-knit team of 5 best friends is going to be an absolutely enormous deal with huge implications. An X-Men villain of the week might easily shrug off most of the team's finishing moves and require a more clever approach, but if the Tokusatsu monster of the week manages to shrug off the finishing move that always works, everyone is going to shit their spandex. The more ironclad a story's formula is, the more impactful any disruption to that formula is going to be. And the color...
I guess.
Yes, that's called common sense.
I mean, it's not technically wrong, but that's just meaning your expectations are so limited because the format's well known.
That's par for the course with this format.
Yeah, I mean, imagine the format of a murder mystery where the detective does the thing at the end, catches the bad guy, and then there's like an epilogue. But there was a second accomplice, or something. It's like, whoa, wait a second, you don't do that. You can't just do that without a good reason. Like, you would have to be very, very careful, because we've done murder mysteries for hundreds of years now, and they're explained to be that way because if you don't do it that way, you piss everyone else off if you don't give us that last chapter the right way. So, what the hell is it called? The Magpie Murders actually addresses that concern with the last chapter of the last book that this famous writer was going to publish, and it becomes a frame narrative of him dying, and it's a Magpie Murders is a funny, silly book if you like murder mysteries, but it plays with the concept. So yeah, there's certain genres you don't do that with, unless you have a very, very good story to back up that explanation. So you don't mess with what works. It's the same with soap operas. People expect the dramatic end. Either someone's going to get married or someone's going to get shipped off to the nunnery or die. So, yeah, lots of soap operas in South America and Europe. They come around every year, all different, but the same formula.
Coded team. An incredibly rigidly formulaic trope, to the point where it's considered a significant break from the norm if the red guy isn't either in charge or really mad about not being in charge. Its formulaic qualities can be seen as a weakness, but I think if they were really that much of a problem, we wouldn't have 10...
For once, she has mentioned it, but not explained why that is.
Yeah, I know. And I can explain it for detective fiction, but I don't know
sometimes
for this.
Things. Sometimes a story with a formula is just a way to guaranteed get a whole lot of the things you like. So, yeah.
A story with a formula. That's what it comes down to?
I think so.
What is a story without a formula?
Slice of life? There's no plot?
Is that a story?
Technically, yes. Stuff happens, but there's no plot. So, it is technically a story, yeah. A plot is why things are happening. Why am I here? Why is this character doing what they're doing? What do they want? And what are they trying to do to get it? Slice of life is got my groceries, made dinner, talked to my neighbor, watching the sunset, the end. Or tomorrow happens, and then the guy wakes up and does the whole thing over again. So it depends. I've read a few Japanese stories like that. And the writers who write those stories, we have bingo cards for them because all their stories are all the same. There's a black cat, there's jazz music, there's some sort of sexual innuendo and anecdote about personal lives. There's a mysterious neighbor. There's some rich, mysterious female character who's single, I think. There's a bar. There's jazz music. Yeah, there's all kinds of great, well, not great, but formulaic authors who do the same thing over and over again. And they're aware of it. But it sells, so they keep doing it. That's it.
We survived.
To the beams!
Wow.
And we learned nothing.
From, I would say 40%, the last 40% was just her just going on, not trying, just saying stuff.
To the beams, and there's quite a few.
Oh,
did we learn anything?
We didn't hurt ourselves. We learned that we could turn our brains off halfway through. It's pretty good.
Oh, someone in the chat claims that Excel Saga has no plot. I vehemently disagree.
Excel Saga? You pay attention to Excel Saga? How?
Of course Excel Saga has a plot.
How can you follow it?
The real main character is Pedro.
Oh my god. Anyway, what do we got here? Enkidu, let's get some beer. No, you can't just ignore me. I'm the goddess of love and beauty. That's good. What we got here? Oh my, the sad Japanese interpretation, the mighty Sumerian original. Okay, I can't read that.
Read that on your own time.
Yeah. Enkidu, close your eyes, bro. Okay, bro. What do you see? Nothing, bro. That's my life without you, bro.
Yeah, okay, that's it.
That's Brokeback Mountain back in the day.
Who made these? These are amazing. I love. Thank you.
New Epic of Gilgamesh dropped before the winds of winter.
The original tweet is cut off. So
629 to 538 BC. Wow. Or 626. Jesus. Awesome stuff. Oh, I'm done working on Elden Ring, so you can finish Winds of Winter now, right? Right? Yeah. Here we go. Peak TMNT dialogue. Wait, you read the Bible, dude? I read everything, Mikey.
I hate what this implies.
Look at that face. I read everything, Mikey.
What does it imply?
He reads everything. Do the math.
I don't get it.
So here we got Kyle Rayner, Diana, Clark, and Jean confronting Luthor.
What's the color coding?
Green. Primary
green.
Primary green. Blue
green. Whatever.
Primary.
I guess this is also just referencing the fact that we got that new clip for the damn Superman movie.
I did see that, and I was confused as what the.
And it's just like, why is Clark so emotional?
Why? I get he misses and loves his dog, but holy hell!
I get that he has an attachment. Yeah, I was about to say, I get that he has attachment to crypto, and he's confronting Luthor about it. But goddamn, dude!
Wait, since when can Wonder Woman fly?
Yeah,
she could always fly.
Yeah, she always fly.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Did she have a jet?
Yeah.
In the golden silver age, but they eventually just gave her the ability to fly.
Okay.
I know. She's cool.
It was too inconvenient, I guess.
Yeah, just like Superman. He originally is just leap over tall buildings in a single mound, and then for the sake of convenience, they just gave him the power to fly anyway.
Ooh, watch out. That sky is the wrong color. You're the wrong color.
Oh, no. Oh my god, Avataro Sentai Dawn Brothers. This was a weird one.
Wow, that is
for Sentai. That's saying something.
That is real
because it's Dawn Brothers.
Wow.
Yeah, Yeah, now you know how I feel.
Holy hell.
2 of them are normal, and 3 of them are caricatures. Well, normal looking, but you get my point.
All right. Very, very mechanical. I like it.
Juco B Fighter, aka Big Bad Beta Wars. Which, fun fact, Dante's actor Ruben Langdon actually started with Tokusatsu. He was in B Fighter at one point. He was in B Fighter Kabuto.
He was in the suit.
He was the lead of B Fighter Kabuto. Yeah.
Oh wow.
I don't know if in the suit, but he was the lead. He was the main character.
Oh, okay. Because I was thinking like David Hayter and Guyver or something like that.
I mean, B Fighter Kabuto, I think, was before that. So
yeah. You're not a red. Non-red leaders.
Oh, yeah, non-red leaders. So we've got Big One from Jaka Dengeki Tai. We've got Ninja White from Kaku Ranger, Mega Black from Mega Ranger, Time Pink from Time Ranger, and Geki Yellow from Mega. Well, no, Mega Ranger. Duh. I get it's not my fault.
Oh my god. Yeah, I don't think this applies, guys. I don't think that's.
It's a team. No. It's a team with a theme.
Shut up.
No, fuck. Yeah,
shut up. My brain is already fried. I don't need to think any further. Because the first thing that entered my brain was Andromeda. I'm like, oh no.
But I was gonna let Whisp off easy. I was not expecting you to just go straight to the shut up.
No. As soon as I see Teletubbies, my brain goes to the villain in Andromeda. And then I saw the color theme, and I was like, nope.
Sun baby.
Too much. Brain cannot do that in 1 hour or 2 hours or 3. Anyway. Whoo boy. That was
wonderful.
Not as bad as I thought. The first half, my brain was like, no, this is so stupid. And then
you really just should have just kept it to Sentai, honestly.
Honestly, if she says color-coded Sentai team with a theme, I'd be like, thank you. But then that wouldn't make any sense because every Sentai team is very specific to
every single Sentai is a distinct team with their individual themes.
Yeah, and you'd have to actually watch the shows to know.
For God's sake, the second ever Super Sentai, which was Jaka, like that one started with 4, and the initial 4 are based on playing cards. It's literally Jaka, J-A-Q-K. J-A-K-Q is the word, where it's Jack, Ace, King, and Queen. And even then, Jack isn't red. Jack is blue, and Ace is red, and he's second. So,
and she didn't go into color theory or the historical, psychological association with colors that are so obvious to do. We've talked about that years ago. I know I have. What the values mean, what Saturday morning cartoons mean to kids, and why we do those colors, why we have primaries and secondaries, and creature of the week, or whatever you want to call the various elements of the plot of those sorts of setups. So that would have been nice, as opposed to speaking in generalities that you can't apply to Sailor Moon, or especially all the think of all the iterations of X-Men, all the teams, the Alpha Flight. I mentioned Alpha Flight, Justice League. Well, it's DC, Excalibur, Freedom Force. Like all these teams, like they have nothing to do with what you said. No colors have anything to do with what you said. And she didn't even bring up the most obvious one to me, which was Green Lantern in the Lantern Corps. That would have been obvious. Like, just so simple. Color things. You have a team, and they're based off colors, and the colors mean something. They do something very specific to everyone else who's different color. Yeah. But she didn't do that. Maybe the Lantern Corps are too independent. I don't know. Maybe they're not a team. Who knows?
And no Ginyu Force.
Yeah, well. At least
you think that would have been an easy one, like as an exception where the team are evil. We've got the Ginyu Force, but not even that. Not even a passing mention.
At least she said the word Sentai, or whatever she referred to the last 40%.
She at least showed clips of Sentai that were relevant. Somewhat.
Yeah. So if she just said that, then we'd have a way already the effort of our brains would be like, oh, thank you. Now I could be in the same ballpark as you, at least. And
could have just as much mentioned the Yoshis.
Oh, really?
They have different colors.
I know they have different colors, but they have different abilities?
Yes. Well, it depends on the game.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I don't remember.
But in the one that introduced the Yoshis, yes, the different Yoshis of the different colors had different abilities.
Ah, interesting.
Like, for some reason, the red one spewed fire.
Ooh. Cool. I forgot.
Red and fire, for some reason, are associated.
Is that...
Man, if only somebody had explained to us why that could be the case.
In Sentai, usually red also has a sword as a primary weapon. That's another one.
That's no Yoshi sword.
Yes.
Now I want Yoshi to have a sword. That'd be cool. Anyway, guys, that was Red and her... It wasn't as crazy as I thought, thankfully. So that's a good touch. So thank you, Red, for being less insane and letting us have a life so we can just sort of understand what you were saying this time. So I can't believe that we've done worse, much worse videos from her years ago, and I can't remember them at all. It's so bad. I could just... This painful memory from years ago that we covered, I just can't recall. I'm like, thank you.
Maybe she's trying now?
No. She's getting old. That's it. She's slowing down. And because she's slowing down, she can't jump around as much. That's it. Anyway, almost 2 hours and 10 minutes. Thanks, guys. Keep those suggestions coming. Keep the voting going. And we will see you soon. Have yourself a great night. Good night.
Good night.